Hey everyone, it's Olivia here, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. I have a story to tell you, one that I think we can all relate to, especially if you've ever felt that irresistible pull of, just one more video. You see, I had the best intentions last night. I was genuinely tired and had planned to crawl into bed early, lights out, and drift off to sleep. My pillow was fluffed, the room was cool and dark, everything was perfect for a good night's rest. And you know what? I even set an alarm to make sure I wouldn't oversleep. But then, I picked up my phone, just to check one notification, and honestly, it felt like I blinked and suddenly it was 2 hours later. I'd fallen down a rabbit hole of oddly satisfying videos, you know the kind, and the soothing rhythm of them just kept me hooked. It was a mix of calming and slightly frustrating, knowing I should be asleep but also feeling so content in that moment. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. Remember, new videos are released daily, focusing on English speaking and listening skills, to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. So, grab your tea, settle in, because I have a story to tell you. It's about a day I spent with my cousins, a day etched in my memory, you know, the kind that flickers like a candle flame, bright and warm, but also with a little flicker of something bittersweet. It's funny how certain days just stick with you, isn't it? It was a summer afternoon, hazy and hot, the kind where the air itself feels thick and slow. We were all kids back then, me, maybe 10 or 11, and my cousins, a whole gaggle of them, ranging from my age down to little Rosie, who was just a toddler, stumbling around in her sundress, clutching a grubby stuffed bunny. We were at Grandma's house, her big, rambling Victorian with the creaky floors and the overgrown garden. It smelled like sunshine and dust and something sweet, probably Grandma's famous apple pie cooling on the windowsill. The day started like any other summer day at Grandma's. Chaos, basically. Kids everywhere. Shrieks of laughter mixing with the clatter of toys. You could hear the rhythmic thump 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 of the screen door as kids ran in and out, their bare feet slapping against the worn wooden porch. We started playing in the attic, a magical, dusty space filled with forgotten treasures. Old trunks overflowing with clothes, stacks of yellowed photographs, and furniture draped in ghostly white sheets. It smelled like old paper and mothballs, a smell I still associate with childhood summers. We dressed up in Grandma's old clothes, flapper dresses and feathered hats, pretending we were movie stars. My cousin, Sarah, the oldest, she was always the dramatic one, she directed us in these elaborate plays, full of romance and intrigue. I remember feeling so important, so grown up, swishing around in a dress that pulled around my ankles. After the attic adventures, we migrated to the backyard. Grandma's garden was a wonderland. Roses climbed the weathered brick walls, their perfume heavy in the air. Butterflies flitted among the vibrant blooms, and bumblebees buzzed lazily around the lavender bushes. We spent hours building a fort in the overgrown corner, dragging branches and old blankets, creating our secret hideaway. We told stories, whispered secrets, and swore to be best friends forever. Do you remember making those kinds of pacts as kids? So earnest, so full of conviction. Lunch was a feast. Grandma, bless her heart, had made a mountain of sandwiches, crispy fried chicken, and potato salad. We ate outside on the picnic table, the sun warm on our faces, the air filled with the buzz of conversation and laughter. Little Rosie, her face smeared with ketchup, kept dropping her chicken legs on the ground, much to the amusement of the dogs who were circling the table, hoping for scraps. It was pure, unadulterated joy. The afternoon brought a change in the weather. Dark clouds gathered, the air grew still, and the first fat raindrops began to fall. We all scrambled inside, the excitement of the storm palpable. Grandma hustled us into the living room, a cozy space with a big fireplace and overstuffed armchairs. She lit a fire, and the room filled with the comforting crackle and pop of burning wood, the scent of wood smoke mingling with the sweet smell of apple pie. The storm raged outside, the wind howling like a banshee, the rain lashing against the windows. Inside, it was warm and safe. We huddled together on the floor, playing board games and telling stories. The power went out, plunging us into darkness, but somehow, it made the moment even more magical. Grandma lit candles, their flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. We sang songs, silly childhood rhymes, and told ghost stories, our voices hushed with a mixture of fear and delight. It was during that power outage, in the flickering candlelight, that something shifted. Sarah, always the strong one, the leader of our little troop, started to cry. She had just gotten some bad news, something about her parents, something I didn't fully understand at the time. But I remember the raw emotion in her voice, the way her shoulders shook with sobs. It was the first time I had seen her so vulnerable. We all gathered around her, offering clumsy comfort, awkward hugs. In that moment, surrounded by the storm and the darkness, the childish games fell away, and we were just family, supporting each other through a difficult moment. The power eventually came back on, the storm subsided, and the sun peeked through the clouds, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. The day, which had started with such carefree abandon, ended with a quiet understanding. We had laughed, we had played, we had cried. We had experienced the full spectrum of childhood emotions, the highs and the lows, the light and the shadow. Looking back, that day with my cousins feels precious. It encapsulates so much of what childhood felt like, the joy, the innocence, the unshakable belief in the power of friendship and family. But it also holds a hint of sadness, a premonition of the inevitable changes that life brings. We grew up, we moved away, life took us on different paths. We're not the same kids who built forts and dressed up in grandma's attic. We have our own lives, our own families, our own joys and sorrows. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can almost smell the scent of grandma's apple pie, hear the creak of the attic stairs, feel the warmth of the fire on my face during that summer storm. And I remember that day, that feeling of connection, that bittersweet awareness of time passing, and I'm grateful for the memories, for the reminder that even though things change, the bonds of family, the echoes of laughter, the shared experiences, those things stay with you. They become a part of who you are, woven into the fabric of your being. So, yeah, that's the story. A day with my cousins. Nothing extraordinary, really. Just a normal day, filled with the ordinary magic of childhood. But it's a day I'll always cherish, a day that reminds me of the importance of connection, the beauty of imperfection, and the bittersweet passage of time. You know what I mean? Those small, seemingly insignificant moments, they can sometimes be the most meaningful ones. They're the ones that stay with you, long after the day is done. They're the stories we tell, the memories we hold close, the threads that connect us to the people we love. So, you know how sometimes, just sometimes, cooking can feel like a glorious, creative explosion? Like you're conducting a symphony of flavors, tossing ingredients together with a flourish, the kitchen becoming your personal concert hall? Yeah, well, what they don't tell you about this culinary concerto is the encore, the cleaning. And let me tell you, the encore can be a real showstopper, but not in a good way. This particular kitchen cleaning saga, the one I'm about to regale you with, happened after I decided to attempt, and I use that word cautiously, a complex Thai green curry. Now, I love Thai food. I mean, love it. The fragrant spices, the coconut milk, the vibrant chilies, it's a party in your mouth. So, naturally, I thought, how hard could it be to recreate this magic at home? Famous last words, right? First off, the ingredient list was longer than my grocery receipt after a particularly indulgent shopping spree. Lemongrass, galangal, kaffir lime leaves, things I'd only ever seen in those little plastic containers at the Asian market. I felt like a culinary Indiana Jones, venturing into uncharted territory. My kitchen, usually a picture of organized chaos, transformed into a full-blown spice jungle. Little piles of chopped chilies, ginger, and garlic dotted the countertops like tiny, fragrant volcanoes. And the smell? Oh, the smell. It was a heady mix of pungent, sweet, and earthy aromas, a sensory overload in the best possible way. I was practically high on the fumes. Then came the actual cooking. Let's just say there was a lot of splattering involved. Coconut milk, it turns out, has a mind of its own when introduced to a hot wok. It's like it decided to reenact the Big Bang all over my stovetop. My once pristine white walls were now speckled with tiny, milky galaxies. And don't even get me started on the turmeric. That stuff stains like nobody's business. My fingertips, my cutting board, even the dish towel I'd carelessly tossed over my shoulder, all a vibrant shade of sunshine yellow. I looked like I'd just wrestled a giant, powdered donut. But you know, despite the chaos, the curry actually turned out pretty decent. I mean, it wasn't exactly restaurant-worthy, but it was edible. And after all that effort, edible felt like a Michelin star. So, I sat down, savoring my hard-earned meal, basking in the warm glow of accomplishment. This feeling, however, it was fleeting. Because then, I saw it. The aftermath. The kitchen. Oh, the kitchen. It looked like a food bomb had exploded. Pots and pans piled high in the sink, covered in a sticky film of coconut milk and curry paste. Utensils scattered across the counters like fallen soldiers. Spice jars lay open, their contents threatening to spill and create new, even more exotic blends. It was a disaster zone. My initial reaction? Denial. I could just ignore it, right? Maybe it would magically clean itself overnight. Or maybe, just maybe, a tiny army of cleaning fairies would descend upon my kitchen and whisk away the mess while I slept. Wishful thinking, I know. But then, the smell. The beautiful, intoxicating aroma of the cooking process had morphed into something less appealing. A lingering, slightly sour scent that clung to the air like a persistent ex-boyfriend. I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. The cleaning had to be done. So, I took a deep breath, rolled up my sleeves, and plunged in. Armed with a sponge, a bottle of dish soap, and a grim determination, I tackled the mountain of dirty dishes. The scraping, the scrubbing, the endless rinsing, it was a meditative process, in a way. A sort of culinary penance for the delicious sin I'd committed earlier. And as I cleaned, I started to notice the little details. The way the turmeric stain on my fingertips slowly faded with each scrub. The satisfying clink of the forks as I stacked them neatly in the drawer. The gradual return of my countertops to their original, unspiced state. There were small victories, too. Like discovering that baking soda paste works wonders on burnt-on curry at the bottom of the pot. Or finding that lost garlic press hiding under a pile of chopped cilantro. It was like a treasure hunt, but instead of gold doubloons, I was unearthing clean surfaces. But the best part? The moment when I finally finished. When the kitchen was sparkling, the counters were clear, and the air was fresh and clean. That feeling of accomplishment, that quiet satisfaction, it was even better than the feeling I'd had after finishing the curry itself. Because this time, it wasn't just about the food. It was about restoring order, about reclaiming my space, about conquering the culinary chaos I had created. And you know what? As I stood there, surveying my spotless kitchen, a strange thought crossed my mind. Maybe, just maybe, I'd do it all again tomorrow. The cooking, the chaos, the cleaning, the whole shebang. Because despite the mess, despite the effort, there's something deeply satisfying about the entire process. It's a reminder that even in the midst of the most chaotic, splatter-filled moments, there's always beauty to be found. Even in the cleaning. So, the next time you find yourself staring down a mountain of dirty dishes after a particularly ambitious cooking adventure, don't despair. Embrace the chaos. Relish the scrubbing. Because on the other side of that mess, there's a sparkling clean kitchen, and a deep sense of satisfaction waiting for you. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of turmeric on your fingertips to remind you of the culinary journey you just took. And that, my friend, is the real magic of cooking. The whole messy, beautiful, delicious experience. You know what I mean? Learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But what if I told you that every step, no matter how small, takes you closer to the peak? Turn your "I can't" into "I'm learning." It's such a simple shift, but it completely changes your perspective. Instead of focusing on what you haven't mastered yet, you celebrate the progress you're making every single day. This little change can honestly boost your confidence in ways you won't believe. And you know what? There are so many fun ways to practice speaking, even in your daily routine. Have you ever tried reading travel blogs aloud? Imagine yourself exploring faraway places, describing stunning landscapes and exciting adventures. You could do it while cooking dinner, on your walk, or even just relaxing on the couch. It's such an enjoyable and effortless way to boost your fluency. Feeling grateful for small speaking wins is so important too. Remember that feeling when you finally managed to order your coffee exactly how you wanted it, or when you understood a whole conversation in English without struggling? These moments, however small they may seem, are huge victories. They remind us why we started this journey and fuel our passion to keep going. I remember when I first started learning a new language, I was so overwhelmed. It felt like I would never get the hang of it. It made me wonder, what's one thing you wish you knew when you started learning English? Sharing our experiences can really help each other on this exciting journey. So, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, so, grab a cuppa, settle in, because this story is a big one. It's about the day I faced my fear. And no, we're not talking about spiders or heights here, though those are perfectly valid fears, believe me. My fear was, well, it was myself, really. Or more specifically, the version of myself I thought I should be. The perfect, polished, never messes up version. You know the one, right? We all have one lurking in the shadows. It all revolved around public speaking. Just the thought of it sent shivers down my spine, literal goosebumps, clammy hands, the whole 9 yards. It wasn't just nerves, it was full-blown terror. I could handle small groups, casual chats, no problem. But put me on a stage, even a small one, with a spotlight, and, poof. Brain malfunction. Word scramble. Total system failure. See, I'd always loved writing. Words on paper, they were my friends. I could craft sentences, build worlds, weave magic with them. But speaking those words aloud, to an audience? Unthinkable. It felt like exposing a vulnerable, secret part of myself, a part one fiercely protected. So, for years, I avoided it. Like, really avoided it. Class presentations? Sudden onset, illness. Work opportunities involving public speaking? Oh, no, someone else would be much better suited. Classic avoidance tactics. I built a comfortable, if slightly limiting, life inside my little bubble of silence. But then came the turning point. Remember I mentioned I loved writing? Well, I'd finally finished a novel I'd been working on for ages, pouring my heart and soul into it. It was my baby. And after countless rejections, another story for another time, trust me, it's a roller coaster. A small, independent publisher decided to take a chance on me. Yay. Champagne corks popping, happy dances, the whole shebang. But then came the dreaded email. We'd love for you to do a reading and Q&A at the local bookstore to launch the book. My stomach plummeted. The champagne went flat. My happy dance turned into a frantic pacing around the kitchen dance. You know, the kind where you mutter to yourself and occasionally bang your head against a cupboard door? Yeah, that one. My initial reaction was, of course, to run. To hide. To invent a sudden, exotic illness that required immediate travel to a remote island with no Wi-Fi. But this was my book. My dream. And deep down, a tiny, almost inaudible voice whispered, "This is your chance." So, I did the unthinkable. I said yes. The weeks leading up to the event were a blur of anxiety. I practiced my reading a million times. I envisioned the bookstore, the audience, the questions they might ask. I even pictured myself tripping on the way to the podium and spilling coffee all over the first row, because, of course, my brain loves to torture me with worst-case scenarios. I tried everything to calm my nerves. Yoga, meditation, breathing exercises, listening to calming music, eating an entire tub of ice cream in one sitting, not recommended, by the way. It just adds a layer of digestive distress to the existing anxiety. Finally, the day arrived. The bookstore was a charming little place, smelling of old paper and freshly brewed coffee, a comforting aroma, usually. But today, it just amplified my nervousness. My palms were sweating so much I could have watered the potted plants. My heart was hammering like a trapped bird against my ribs. I felt nauseous. People started arriving. Real, live people. They smiled, they chatted, they browsed the shelves. They were completely oblivious to the internal earthquake happening inside me. I wanted to scream, to run, to teleport myself anywhere but there. Then I saw her. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, clutching a copy of my book. She looked up at me with these big, curious eyes, full of wonder. And in that moment, something shifted. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about the story. The story I'd poured my heart into. The story I wanted to share. It was about connecting with people, with that little girl who saw something special in the words I'd written. My name was called. I took a deep breath, walked towards the podium surprisingly, without tripping, and looked out at the faces. And you know what? It wasn't scary. Not really. My voice trembled a little at first, but as I began to read, the words flowed. I wasn't just reciting them, I was living them. I was sharing a part of myself, a vulnerable, messy, imperfect part, and it felt liberating. During the Q&A, I stumbled over a few words, yes. I even blanked on a question or two, brain still a little glitchy, apparently. But I laughed it off, and the audience laughed with me. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about being real. After the event, people came up to me, their eyes shining, telling me how much they enjoyed the reading, how my story resonated with them. That little girl, the one who'd given me the courage to step onto that stage, shyly asked me to sign her book. Her smile, it was worth more than all the book sales in the world. That day, I didn't just face my fear of public speaking. I faced my fear of being myself. The imperfect, messy, sometimes awkward, but ultimately authentic me. And you know what? The real me wasn't so scary after all. In fact, she was kind of awesome. So, what's the moral of the story? I guess it's that sometimes, the things we fear the most are the very things that can set us free. It's about taking that leap of faith, even when your knees are shaking and your palms are sweating. It's about embracing the imperfections, the stumbles, the messy bits. Because that's where the real magic happens. You know what I mean? It's in those moments of vulnerability that we truly connect with others, and ultimately, with ourselves. And that, my friend, is a feeling worth facing any fear for. Okay, so, you are never going to believe what happened to me yesterday. It all started with these ear-cleaning buds, right? I'd seen them advertised everywhere, you know, those little spirally things, promising a spa-like ear-cleaning experience. And, let me tell you, my ears, well, they can be a bit enthusiastic in their wax production. So, naturally, I was intrigued. I'm a sucker for anything that promises a little bit of pampering, a little self-care, you know? especially after a long week. And last week? Oof. Don't even get me started. So, I thought, why not? Treat myself to some squeaky clean ears. Sounds ridiculous, right? But honestly, the idea of that satisfying clean feeling was strangely appealing. I ordered them online, bright turquoise, they were, almost like little miniature drill bits. Don't worry, they weren't actually drills. They were supposed to be super gentle, made of this soft, flexible silicone. The reviews were mixed, let's just say that. Some people raved, claiming they'd never felt such orgasmic bliss, their words, not mine, while others, well, let's just say they weren't as enthusiastic. But the FOMO got the better of me. I had to try it for myself. The package arrived yesterday, a small, unassuming little box. I ripped it open, eager to experience this supposed nirvana. Inside, nestled in a clear plastic tray, were the turquoise buds, gleaming innocently. They were smaller than I expected, almost delicate. I picked one up, rolling it between my fingers. The silicone was surprisingly soft, with a slight give. There was also a little instruction booklet, which I, of course, skimmed. You know me, I'm a learn-as-you-go kind of gal. What could possibly go wrong, right? Famous last words. I settled onto the sofa, a cup of chamomile tea steaming beside me, ready for my ear spa experience. I took a deep breath, inserted the bud into my right ear, and, well, nothing. Just a slightly odd, ticklish sensation. I rotated it, gently, as instructed, expecting to feel something. Anything. But it was just there. Now, I'm someone who likes instant gratification. You know, like when you peel off a face mask and your skin feels baby soft? Or when you finally crack that tough level in a video game. This wasn't giving me that. So, against my better judgment, and the probably very sensible advice in the little instruction booklet I'd ignored, I pushed it in a little further. And that, my friend, is where things went sideways. Suddenly, there was a distinct pop. Not a loud pop, mind you, more like a muffled, internal pop. Like a tiny balloon bursting inside my head. And then, a strange, dull ache. My heart did a little flutter kick. Oh, no. Had I just punctured my eardrum? Images of cotton balls, eardrops, and stern-faced doctors flashed before my eyes. I carefully, very carefully, removed the bud. It looked the same. No blood, no gore, nothing to indicate the potential catastrophe I was convinced I'd just unleashed within my ear canal. But the ache remained. A low, throbbing hum. I tentatively touched my earlobe, wincing. It felt tender. Panic started to set in. I Googled punctured eardrum symptoms. In a frenzy, my anxiety spiraling with every alarming search result. Dizziness? Check. Muffled hearing? Double check. I was convinced I was going deaf. Deaf from ear cleaning buds. The irony was almost laughable. Almost. I paced around my apartment, clutching my head, feeling utterly ridiculous. I mean, who punctures their eardrum with an ear cleaning bud? Me, apparently. Champion of bad decisions. Just when I was about to call my doctor and confess my utter stupidity, the ache started to subside. Slowly, gradually, the throbbing faded. I took a tentative swallow, and nothing. No pain. I could hear the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the chirping of birds outside my window. Cautiously, I plugged my left ear and then my right. I could hear. I could actually hear. Relief washed over me, so profound I almost sagged to the floor. So, what happened? I still don't know for sure. Maybe I just pushed the wax further in? Maybe I irritated my eardrum? Maybe it was all in my head. Who knows? The important thing is, my hearing was intact. And I had learned a very valuable lesson. Read the instructions, and don't be so eager to shove things into your ear. Duh. But you know what the funniest part is? After all that drama, after the panic, the Googling, the near-death experience, my ear felt amazing. Like, truly, deeply clean. It was the weirdest thing. All that anxiety, all that fear, and for what? Squeaky clean ears. The irony was not lost on me. I haven't touched the other ear cleaning bud since. It's sitting on my bathroom counter, a turquoise testament to my impulsive nature and the potential dangers of over-enthusiastic ear cleaning. I'm thinking of framing it. A reminder of the day I almost went deaf in pursuit of Nirvana. You know what I mean? It's like a weird, little trophy of my own stupidity. Now, I stick to good old-fashioned cotton swabs and the occasional visit to the doctor for a proper ear cleaning. It might not be as exciting or as spa-like, but it's definitely safer. And honestly, after that whole ordeal, I think I prefer the peace of mind. Much less dramatic. So, yeah, that was my ear cleaning adventure. A bit ridiculous, a bit dramatic, and definitely a learning experience. Next time you're tempted by some trendy new gadget promising miracles, just take a deep breath. Read the instructions. And maybe, just maybe, reconsider. You might save yourself a whole lot of unnecessary stress. And maybe you're hearing, just saying, so, how was your week? Anything exciting happen? Hopefully, less ear-related. Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel overwhelming sometimes, but I want to remind you that the joy is in the journey, not the destination. Think about it. Every new word you learn, every conversation you attempt, every tiny step forward, that's where the real magic happens. It's not about reaching some perfect level of fluency overnight, it's about embracing the process, celebrating your progress, and having fun along the way. Trust me, that's what builds real confidence. You know what I've found really helpful? Explaining a news article to myself out loud. It sounds simple, but it works wonders. Imagine you're making breakfast, flipping pancakes, and simultaneously explaining the latest headlines to an imaginary audience. It's a fun way to practice vocabulary and sentence structure without the pressure of a real conversation. Plus, it's something you can easily fit into your daily routine. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Trying to relax and enjoy speaking, but failing? Been there. It's so frustrating when you understand everything perfectly in your head but freeze up when it's your turn to speak. It's like your tongue gets tied in a knot, and suddenly all those perfectly formed sentences vanish into thin air. We've all been there, and it's completely normal. And you know what? This reminds me of a time I was at a conference, listening to a speaker, and I was so inspired to ask a question. My heart was pounding, my palms were sweaty. I was so nervous. Which brings me to a question for you all. How do you build confidence before speaking English publicly? Share your tips and tricks in the comments. I can't wait to hear your stories and learn from each other. Let's support each other on this amazing journey. Okay, so, you want to hear a story? A real story? Alright, buckle up, because this one involves the ocean, a surfboard significantly larger than myself, and a level of humiliation that still makes me cringe. We're talking about the time I tried surfing. It all started with a postcard. You know those ridiculously idyllic pictures they sell in tourist shops? Turquoise water, a golden sunset, a lone surfer silhouetted against the fiery sky, riding a wave like some kind of ocean god. Yeah, that postcard. I found it tucked into a dusty old travel book, and for some inexplicable reason, it sparked something in me. I, a landlocked creature who tripped over flat surfaces, decided I needed to surf. My best friend, Sarah, bless her ever-optimistic soul, was immediately on board. We're talking full-blown Pinterest boards dedicated to beachy vibes, shopping sprees for surf chic outfits, which, let's be honest, I couldn't pull off even on dry land, and endless YouTube tutorials on how to pop up on a surfboard, which, spoiler alert, is a lot harder than it looks. We picked a sleepy coastal town a few hours' drive away. I envisioned a secluded beach, gentle waves whispering onto the shore, a wise old surf instructor with a sun-kissed face and a calming voice. The reality, however, was different. The beach was crowded. Like packed sardines crowded. Kids screaming, families picnicking, radios blasting questionable music. The waves? Not so gentle whispers, more like aggressive roars. They crashed onto the shore with a force that made my stomach churn. And the surf instructor? Well, let's just say he looked more like he'd wrestled a shark than ridden a wave. He was this burly, tattooed guy with a permanent squint and a voice that could rival a foghorn. "All right, landlubbers," he bellowed, gathering our group of aspiring surfers. "Today, we conquer the ocean." I exchanged a nervous glance with Sarah. Conquer? I was pretty sure the ocean was about to conquer me. First, we had to learn the basics on the sand. This involved lying flat on a giant foam board, which, I swear, was designed for a small elephant, not a human, and practicing popping up. Imagine a clumsy seal trying to stand on a wobbly platform. That was me. Sand went everywhere, my limbs flailed in every direction, and I'm pretty sure I accidentally kicked the instructor in the shin. At one point. Smooth. Eventually, we were deemed ready to face the actual water. The walkout was an experience. Each wave that crashed around my ankles felt like a personal attack. The salty spray stung my eyes, and the undertow tried to drag me back to the shore like a grumpy sea monster. You know that feeling of being completely out of your element? Yeah, that was my entire existence at that moment. Finally, we reached the designated surfing zone. The instructor positioned me on the board, pointed towards the shore, and yelled, "Paddle. Paddle. Paddle." I paddled. Or at least, I tried to. It felt like I was moving through molasses. The waves kept pushing me back, and my arms felt like lead. Then, a wave came. A big wave. "This is it," the instructor roared. "Pop up." Panic seized me. My brain short-circuited. I forgot everything he'd taught us. Instead of gracefully rising to my feet, I did some bizarre hybrid of a flailing starfish and a drunken worm. The wave crashed over me, tossing me around like a rag doll in a washing machine. I swallowed about a gallon of seawater, my hair wrapped around my face like a seaweed mask, and my dignity? Yeah, that was long gone. When I finally resurfaced, sputtering and disoriented, the instructor's voice boomed, again. Again? Was he serious? Part of me wanted to swim back to shore, curl up in a ball, and never look at the ocean again. But another part of me, that stubborn little voice that had been captivated by that stupid postcard, refused to give up. So, I tried again. And again. And again. Each attempt resulted in a variation of the same humiliating spectacle. I nose-dived, I wiped out, I got tangled in my own leash. I'm pretty sure I provided endless entertainment for everyone on the beach. There was one moment, though. One glorious, fleeting moment. I caught a small wave. I actually managed to wobble to my feet, albeit for about 2 seconds before promptly falling flat on my face. But for those 2 seconds, I felt it. The rush, the exhilaration, the sense of freedom. It was amazing. Like flying, but on water. You know what I mean? By the end of the lesson, I was exhausted, bruised, and covered in sand and seaweed. My hair was a tangled mess, my skin was prune-like, and I could barely lift my arms. But, strangely, I was also happy. I hadn't conquered the ocean, not even close. But I had faced it. I had pushed myself beyond my comfort zone, and I had experienced something new, something challenging, something utterly ridiculous. We spent the rest of the day on the beach, nursing our wounds, both physical and emotional, with ice cream and laughter. Sarah, ever the supportive friend, kept replaying my epic wipeouts, much to my embarrassment and amusement. Looking back, my attempt at surfing was a disaster. A glorious, hilarious, unforgettable disaster. It wasn't the postcard perfect experience I had envisioned, but it was a story. My story. And hey, sometimes the best stories are the ones where you fall flat on your face, swallow a mouthful of seawater, and end up looking like a drowned rat. Right? So, yeah, that's the time I tried surfing. What a day. Now, whose turn is it for a story? Okay, so, you will not believe what I went through with these curtains. I mean, curtains, right? How hard can it be? You'd think it's a simple in and out trip to the store, but oh honey, my curtain saga is an epic tale. Grab a cuppa, this might take a while. It all started, as many disastrous home decor projects do, with a sudden, inexplicable urge. I was sitting in my room, working, well, trying to work in the sunlight. This harsh, almost aggressive afternoon sun was blazing right through my thin, pathetic excuse for window coverings. They were these flimsy, off-white things I'd inherited from the previous tenant. They didn't block light, they didn't offer privacy, they didn't even look nice. They just existed, like a sad, pale ghost at the window. You know the kind? So, I had this epiphany, this sudden burning desire for beautiful curtains. I'm talking luxurious, light-filtering, room-transforming curtains. I envisioned this rich, emerald green, a deep, jewel-toned green that would make my room feel like a cozy, elegant haven. I could almost feel the soft fabric, see the gentle way they'd drape, imagine the way the light would filter through, casting a warm, inviting glow. I was obsessed. Right then and there, laptop abandoned, I grabbed my keys and practically skipped to my car. The closest home goods store is this huge place, like a warehouse of dreams for anyone remotely interested in interior design. I love that place. The smell of cinnamon and potpourri hits you the moment you walk in, and there are just aisles and aisles of everything you could ever want for your home. It's dangerous, I tell you, dangerous for the wallet. Anyway, I beelined for the curtain section, heart aflutter with anticipation. And oh my goodness, the choices. There were sheer curtains, blackout curtains, velvet curtains, linen curtains, patterned curtains, plain curtains, you name it, they had it. It was overwhelming. I wandered around for a good hour, touching fabrics, holding them up to the light, trying to envision them in my room. I felt like a kid in a candy store, except instead of candy, it was drapes. I finally found a few emerald green options that looked promising. There was this thick, velvety one that felt incredibly luxurious, but also incredibly expensive. Then there was a lighter linen one, a beautiful shade of green with a subtle texture, and the price was much more reasonable. I held them both up, comparing, contrasting, agonizing over the decision. You know that feeling, right? When you're just paralyzed by indecision. After what felt like an eternity, I went with the linen ones. They felt lighter, more airy, perfect for summer. Plus, my budget breathed a sigh of relief. I grabbed 2 panels, feeling triumphant, like I'd conquered Everest, or at least the curtain aisle. But the saga doesn't end there, oh no. This is where the real fun begins. I get home, all excited to hang my beautiful new curtains, and that's when I realized I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I'd seen curtains hung before, obviously, but I'd never actually hung them myself. I stared at the curtain rod, then at the curtains, then back at the rod. It was like a complicated puzzle I hadn't been given the instructions for. So, naturally, I did what any millennial would do. I Googled it. How to hang curtains, I typed, and a plethora of articles, videos, and blog posts appeared. I clicked on the first video I saw, some DIY guru confidently demonstrating the process. It looked easy enough. Piece of cake, I muttered to myself, grabbing my toolbox. Famous last words. First, I had to measure. Measuring is not my forte. I'm more of an eyeball it kind of gal. But the video stressed the importance of precise measurements, so I reluctantly grabbed my measuring tape. I measured, then measured again, then measured a third time just to be sure. I marked the spots on the wall with a pencil, feeling quite proud of my newfound precision. Next came the drilling. Now, I've used a drill before, but usually for smaller tasks, like hanging pictures. Drilling into the wall for curtain brackets felt significant. I took a deep breath, lined up the drill, and squeezed the trigger. The drill whirred to life, and suddenly, the bit slipped. I yelped, dropping the drill and clutching my hand. Luckily, no blood, just a bruised ego. And a slightly crooked hole in the wall. Okay, I thought, we can fix this. I repositioned the bracket, trying to ignore the slightly off-kilter hole, and drilled again. This time, success. I repeated the process on the other side, managing to avoid any further mishaps. Finally, the moment of truth. I hung the curtains, stood back, and they were too short. Like, comically short. They hovered several inches above the floor, looking awkward and unfinished. I groaned. What had I done wrong? I remeasured the curtains, then the window. It turned out, in my excitement, I'd grabbed the wrong length. I needed the 96-inch panels, not the 84-inch. Defeated, I collapsed onto my bed, surrounded by curtain paraphernalia. The emerald green fabric mocked me with its unattainable elegance. I wanted to cry. I wanted to give up. I wanted to just live with the sad, pale ghost curtains forever. But then, something shifted. I started to laugh. I mean, really laugh. The whole situation was just so absurd. It was just curtains. How had I managed to turn such a simple task into such a dramatic ordeal? It was hilarious. So, the next day, I returned to the store, exchanged the short curtains for the correct length, double-checking the label this time, and with a newfound sense of determination, and a healthy dose of caution, I finally hung them. And you know what? They were perfect. Absolutely perfect. The rich emerald green transformed my room, casting a warm, inviting glow. The fabric draped beautifully, filtering the sunlight just the way I'd imagined. It was like stepping into a different world, a calm, elegant oasis. It wasn't just about the curtains, though. It was about the journey, the ridiculous, frustrating, ultimately rewarding journey of transforming my space, one slightly crooked drill hole at a time. It was a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary tasks can become extraordinary adventures. And sometimes, all it takes is a little bit of perseverance, a lot of laughter, and the perfect shade of emerald green to make all the difference. So, yeah, that's my curtain story. What do you think? Worth the trouble, right? Now, whose turn is it to share a disastrous DIY story? I'm all ears. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for watching and for spending this time with me today. I really appreciate you staying connected and learning together. If you'd like to stay updated with new daily content focused on English speaking and listening, I'd love for you to follow, like, subscribe and share. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, do you have any event or gathering coming up? It is always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your plans is a fantastic way to practice expressing yourself in English and connect with other viewers in the comments. It would be wonderful to hear from you. See you tomorrow, and remember to take good care of yourselves and keep practicing. Your progress matters.